In the dark of the night, behind closed doors, the Democratic leadership of Congress undermined efforts to secure our nation's borders. As part of their effort to pass an emergency spending bill, congressional leaders changed some key provisions of the Secure Fence Act of 2006. Now, that law called for a two-tier fencing to be installed at specific locations along our border with Mexico. Last night, those requirements were removed from the spending bill. Congressman Pete King was the sponsor of the Secure Fence Act, and he joins me now. Welcome. I would like to first ask you about this bill. This bill was delivered in the middle of the night, released by Democrats after midnight. It's the size of a major metropolitan phone book. It has 1,500 pages at least, 9,000 earmarks, and then something like the Secure Fence Act is removed. How do you even find something like that and follow up on it? Aren't you outraged?
Yeah, I really am. It's really disgraceful. We passed the Secure Fence Act last year. It passed overwhelmingly in both houses. There was a major bill signing ceremony in the White House. It required a fence of 700 miles along the border, a double-tiered, two-tiered fence, and to have this taken out to be buried in an omnibus bill, which has nothing to do with the fencing, and this really had nothing to do with spending either. This was strictly it was stuck in there, and in fairness, it was originally proposed by a Republican senator, but it was the Democratic leaders who put it in there, and it just violates the entire spirit of the law, the letter of the law, and it really just is a smack in the face to the American people, because certainly when I ran for re-election last year, when we talk about our policy against illegal immigration, one of the first things we talk about is how important this fence is and how we voted for it and how it's going to be constructed. The way it is now, as a practical matter, limits it to 370 miles, and even that is not definite. So we're going to have to restart this fight, and I'm just hoping that people watching tonight will just take up this fight, and we'll continue it through next year, because it's really wrong. If they wanted to have a debate on this and have a full-fledged debate with committee hearings and a floor debate out in front of the American people, and then Congress voted to cut this fence in half, then that's fair play. That's the will of the people. That's the will of the Congress. But to sneak it in like this in an overall spending bill was really disgraceful. Yeah,
well, it seems a little bit outrageous. Despite your objections to this, though, you voted for this bill. This bill passed in the House, and you voted for it. Why was that?
Well, it's either up or down, and as you said, there were many, many provisions in the bill. For instance, there was language in there which is going to increase the amount of money for Border Patrol agents, for immigration enforcement, and veteran spending, veterans benefits, things which were needed. So by probably in my mind, this balanced out 51-49. There was more good than bad in it, and that's why I voted for it. I can understand why people voted against it. I just felt that on balance, there was enough good in there that it should be voted for, because this basically was the entire program for the U.S. government, and we did cut down the spending dramatically. This is a $22 billion below what the Democrats wanted to spend, so it did fit within the president's budget. As far as the spending part of it, I can live with. There's items in there I'm not crazy about, but on balance, it was satisfactory. But to sneak that in about the fence was really disgraceful.
Let's talk about a couple other immigration issues. Now, the Senate voted down the cloture vote, and they'll continue debate on it, but also put in is $10 million for lawyers for illegal aliens, and also taken out was a language that protected employers who required English only. What do you think of that?
I disagree on both counts, and I feel strongly. I know, for instance, Congressman Tom Price, I believe, of Georgia, has legislation which would reinstate the language as far as employers being able to require language as the to require English as the language on the job site. I think that's an absolute right that employers should have. And also, as far as giving $10 million to allow lawyers to defend illegal immigrants, it's totally in the wrong direction. And again, there's a number of issues like that in the legislation that have to be addressed in the next year. And maybe it being a presidential year and an election year, it'll give us the opportunity to get these issues out on the table, let the American people know who stands where on these issues.
Well, it certainly is a disservice to the American people to have this sort of backdoor stuff going on with a spending bill of this importance. Representative Pete King, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Katie, thank you very much.